yeah, as we get started, Jeremy's going to put some stuff up here. If you are part of the Redbird team, if you will come up to where we had talked about, that'd be great. Truly had a great trip. Pastor Justin's going to start this morning. He's just going to share with you a little bit about the history as we get started, the why, the connection that our church has and has had for a very long time to Redbird. Up on the screen, you'll see this, and this is just going to roll through. I'll tell you, there's some pictures, there's some videos. Course of the trip, we ended up with about 1,300 pictures that the kids had taken different places. I narrowed those down to the 700 that weren't blurry or of nothing, and then narrowed them down to the very best 200 that we have that we'll just scroll through to give you an idea, some context to some of the trip. And sorry about that. But Justin, if you start.
Yeah, so back in 1920, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not going back that far. Yeah. No, Redbird was founded back in 1921, and the heart of the people that came to that part of Appalachia really was to be able to go to those surrounding communities and serve the people in those communities. How many of you have been to Redbird Mission? All right. If you're sitting in this front row and you're not raising your hand, right? Yeah, right. And so for those of you who don't know, I mean, it literally is in the middle of a bowl. I mean, you stand on the mission and you can turn in a circle and you have mountains completely around you and you're in this bowl. And so they started actually not on this site, but a different site, not too far from there. And they started doing healthcare in the area. So you see hospitals, ministries for people like having children, and just health care for young mothers. You've seen schools. They've been on 2 different sites, well, technically 3 different sites for schools, and everything they've done since 1921 truly is to go and serve the people of that area. They touch about 3 different counties. I mean, their reach goes beyond that, but largely the 3 counties that are around them are the community that they try to focus on. And if you've ever driven through the mountains, 1 2-track road can take you 5 minutes to get where you're going, or a roundabout way on an actual road will take you 35 minutes. So, again, their focus has always been to serve that area and to serve those people well. The focus has shifted over the years. Like I said, sometimes a lot more on healthcare, on food distributions, on clothing, on clean water, but always to serve that area. So I think our church's history, and I guess technically kind of predating this church's history, but Pastor Brian first went down to Redbird, I want to say it was in 1995. It might have been 96, but somewhere in that time, he took his first trip down to Redbird and was actually up on the side of one of those mountains that he felt the call to be a youth pastor full time. And so that kind of started his journey down that road, which then, because of his calling to take his youth groups down to Redbird, exposed me to going down to Redbird. So in 2000 was my first trip down to Redbird. And I've been going not every year, but this is my 13th time down in 26 years. And so when we started Son's Life, it became one of those things to say, okay, is this a tradition? Is this a thing that as a church we can continue building into our congregation? And I'm sure you'll hear it come up today in some of the things that the kids are going to share. And if not, then maybe in some of the things that Pastor Don and I will share, that the heart of this trip for us has always been and remains to be how to teach about service. How do we take a group of kids or adults and take them to a foreign place where they don't know where they are, they don't know what's going on, and how do we teach them what it means to serve other people? And again, the challenge of that has changed even in the 26 years that I've been down there. The challenge of that has changed. But the heart of that mission of teaching how to serve remains the same. And so we've always seen the value in that, and so it's a tradition that that we've built into and hope to continue to build into just kind of the structure of Son's life. So good? All right.
Yeah, so what we're going to do today, and the way we discuss this as a team, is we want to tell you one story of the trip. Now, every person has their own view, their own picture of what this is, and I'm sure that they will all be able to tell you every aspect if you have more questions after. We want to tell one story. We just want to do it in 16 parts. And so a couple people at a time, they've said, hey, I want to share about these different things. And we're just going to try to walk you through relatively quickly, but thoroughly, to give you a view of what the week was. And that all started on Saturday. Saturday, we got up early in the morning, met here, we prayed, we got on the bus and took off. And so Joe and Lorelei, if you guys want to come up and share a little bit about our trip to Redbird. It was not uneventful, but it was all Saturday and Sunday. So if you guys want to come up.
All right, so I'm Joe, by the way. Saturday, the ride there was all right. It got annoying a little bit with all the kids singing the whole way there. No, but it was fun. They had fun. I didn't mind it. Was Monday we got to meet Miss Geraldine when we got there. She was kind of put a little shield up because she didn't want us in until Tim got there, which was a Redbird worker. But once we got there, we got together and we prayed together. We had the kids go look around the work area and make sure there was nothing we could get hurt. So they moved whatever needed to be moved out the way. We started the ceiling, drywall demo, and the roof. It was fun, but I learned there that being over here, we're always rushing to get our jobs done. Over there, we needed to not rush, take our time, and actually make sure everything was done right. And it was nice seeing everybody talk because our phones did not work over there until the kids found that there was Wi-Fi. But it was good seeing everybody talk. And that's it for that one.
Well, you want to share about the trip down Saturday, Sunday, anything that we did?
It was fun.
You're good. So definitely, I mean, there were a lot of pieces that happened, right? Saturday was just driving, but Sunday, where did we go first?
Sunday we went to church, and what?
Did we go to church? And where did we head after that?
He headed to the first KFC, and that was
That's
fun.
right. Yeah.
So I was just going to get lemonade because I was thirsty. And then a bag came out, and I didn't know why they put a drink in a bag. So I looked and it was lemon cake. So then I ended up getting free lemonade. And then we got back in the car. Well, the bus, not the car. And
We went to lunch, right?
yeah,
Did a lot of eating on this trip.
yeah. And I was a little bit scared about going back down the hill after lunch, but it was definitely not as scary as I pictured it.
Lunch on top of a mountain in a bus. Getting there, I think they got a little extra prayer time in with me driving up and down those roads, but it worked out just fine. Thank you, Lorelai. Anything else you want to share about the trip down?
I now know how to check a bed for bed bugs, and I didn't know how to do that before.
And just for the
That's
record, it
something
was
helpful to
0.
Okay.
So it was Saturday, Sunday. I mean, and it is just what it is. Honestly, it's a lot of driving. It's about 8 hours of driving the first day. Waking up on Sunday, we decided, hey, go to Kentucky Fried Chicken. If you're in Kentucky, they just call it fried chicken there. And then we went to church. We found a church to go to, slightly larger than this one, I think, where we sat in a balcony, if that gives you any idea. And then traveled on, had lunch, and made it to Redbird about 3 in the afternoon, 3:30 in the afternoon on Sunday. Arrived. There were a few people very grateful to have arrived in one piece. But then as you get there, it is different. You know, as Justin talked about, it's a different world. It's a different place. It is a completely foreign culture and experience to be there. And so Lorraine and Anna, if you guys want to come up and talk about just your, arriving at the mission, the first thoughts as you kind of get there Sunday night before we started work, what that looked like. Awesome.
Oh.
Oh.
Mic check, mic check.
So, it's going to be a great mission trip when about 10 minutes from the actual mission, nothing's working on your phone anymore. Really happy I had Spotify Premium. So the ride was fun. It was a lot of mountains. So I was pretty happy that I don't get car sick easy. We got there. It was super nice. It was warm, which was a change. We got there. We talked to some of the people there. We talked to Mr. Bobby, who is in charge of helping us get to jobs. We met some of the other people that were there, and they were all really nice. A lot of them were from Michigan, which was really weird. What else? It was nice. The dorms we were staying in were really nice, too. It was like, in the words of Ella, it was like when you get on a train and they have like all the bunks right there. It was great. And they were actually comfortable. If you ever been to Bayshore, beds there, don't compare. They're so good. I think I slept better in those beds than I did at my own house. But it was really nice. We played volleyball, basketball. My mom's reminding me of the spiders she found under my bed. Ugh. Ugh, they're so gross. Ugh. Anyway, you're distracting me. So I'm getting there. Mom's distracting. Okay, so yeah, walk away. So we actually got there. We played basketball. We talked to some of the people that lived there, some of the people that worked there, and then some of the people that were there as also working on the mission. What are y'all laughing? That's a great picture. But we looked around. We explored. It was really nice. There was we're obviously in the middle of a mountain, so there's a creek, there's a river. It was really nice. We got to meet a whole lot of fun people.
All right. I'm gonna scoot up because I have notes. Okay, so obviously it was our first time going there, so I did not know what I was in for. I know Pastor Don did remind us as we got closer to the trip to just kind of prepare our minds and our hearts and just to make sure that that was all in the right place. So I remember thanking God for allowing us to arrive safely, and then Don, because those hills are not a joke, not a joke. But you can get through it. If I can get through it, you can get through it. And then as we entered, so we got there safely, and then it was nice to see all the kids kind of adjust to the environment, like quite easy. We did have, a few people that were missing home, and that's okay. I think it's normal, and, some of them are very young, and that's okay. So I will say for myself, that was a really uncomfortable because I didn't know how to act with people that were like sad and missing home, just because my kids were with me, So I kind of had to remind myself, like, hey, maybe be of like support or, just have a word of wisdom for someone. Just encourage them while we're here, and just remind them. So I remember watching them settled in, unloading their stuff into the cabins, everybody going down to Cardinal Hall. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the Cardinal Hall. So it's kind of like their cafeteria, and just kind of, it was really nice to see the kids that have already been there kind of like walk everybody else through where everything was at and just being helpful to each other. So everybody got acquainted with the place pretty easily. Like Anna said, playing basketball, just playing volleyball on the first night. Everybody was ready to go. And then our night did end up with a devotional, which kind of ended a little abruptly because a camp worker came and told us that Pastor Justin's car had broken down. So we were all left like not knowing what was going on. So we did do a quick prayer. And then Don was off to a rescue mission. And then I will say, for some of the girls, and especially Bridget being, the pastor's daughter, we didn't know what had happened. So, and a lot of people are like, okay, we have to go to bed, because tomorrow's a work day. And then cabins are separate, so you don't know, you really didn't have a way of knowing what happened until the morning. So really, we just kind of prayed about it and just kind of gave it to God.
Thank you. Yes, and we did. Pastor Justin is safe. We rescued him successfully. It all was great. Successfully is a misnomer. If you think the roads are treacherous in the day, driving that bus down mountain roads, I did not know where I was. Somehow on the way back, we got turned around. Our 40-minute trip from Manchester to Redbird took almost 2 hours. We ended up on some back roads. I didn't know where we were. We were just like, man, we got to keep going, and I hope that this is wide enough for the bus. But we were back in plenty of time to get up and start work the next day. So as we started talking about throughout the week, we had actually two projects, 2 job sites, 2 separate places. That meant our team was going to be split. Guys, I'm going to call a little bit of an audible here, and I want to do this a little bit differently. We went to Miss Geraldine's house, a group of us did, and spent time there. The projects were to repair her roof and to put a new metal roof onto her home. She had had an incident with a tree that left major issues in the roof and also then in the house itself. And so the room inside needed new drywall, ceiling, and whatnot. There was extensive damage, and so the inside work and the outside work there led to 2 large projects and a lot of people who needed to be up in the air. I was not at that one. It was great. But Miss Geraldine's house was a project in and of itself. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if Joe and Lily and Pastor Justin want to come up, I'd like to walk through that entire job, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, giving the view of what we did. Not we, I was not there, what they did, and what it was to work at that job site, how it went. And then we'll talk about our second job site after that.
So I jumped ahead earlier on mine. I'm not going to tell the Sunday story at the church. All right, I'm going to tell it. So at the end, we're upstairs. Because that church had, I don't know, it was like 3 flights of stairs to get upstairs. But so at closing prayer, we're closing our eyes, praying. And an elderly lady's trying to sneak out during closing prayer. And it was God. Gave her a little push because she tripped and fell on the step. And I look over at Don, waiting for him to move, but he didn't. There was a security guard, though. He was like eagle-eyeing us the whole time we were there, doing his job. He had it, so we were good in our defense. But
It was covered, guys.
Yeah.
It was fine. What is the lesson there, and especially for all you guys here today?
yeah, don't sneak out during closing prayer.
Pastor might not notice, but God does.
Yeah, so at Miss Geraldine's, the project was fun, both the drywall and the roof. And Justin had me go up on the roof, which he got me on that one. But it was fun. Again, slowing down and letting the kids do most of the project is what I learned, teaching what I know. And you can go ahead, Lily, now.
Monday we first got there, I was scared and nervous because I didn't know what was going to go on. We did the ceiling when we first went in there. And we started taking out the insulation. It was dirty. And then, yeah, from all the rain. And it was brown. And then Tuesday, I actually got to go on the roof because the boys at first did not let us. Yeah. It was scary on the roof at first, but then it was really fun because I got to do work up there. Oh yeah, I dropped my Wawa off the roof, which is, it's okay, it's not dented. Yeah, that was really scary though. But I'm getting a new one, so. What? Oh, and it was Jackson's, Miss Jolene's grandson's birthday on Tuesday, so we sung him happy birthday, and Pastor Justin got him a birthday present.
It was a plastic lizard, a puzzle, zebra cakes, and there might have been something else in there, yeah. As I was making my second trip back to Manchester on Tuesday to pick up my car, which was a blessing, they finished it so quickly. I thought, man, there's a Walmart right here. It's Jackson's birthday. I'm going to stop and get him something for his birthday from the group. The girls had already made him cards, right? Yeah, just to give him something for his birthday. And when he came walking up, was it on his birthday? I think it was on Tuesday. And one of them asked, "Is today your birthday, Jackson?" It might have been you, Joe. I don't know. And he walks by and goes. So his grandma, his Mayma had told him that his birthday was sometime this week, but she didn't say which day. So he knew it was coming. He just didn't know it was for sure that day. So, yeah. So when we took over, you guys are good, yeah. And like they said, a big theme for this week was a lot of slow down. We went in definitely looking at the jobs that we had when we got the report, and we had the thought of, cool, what are we going to do on Tuesday? Because looking at what these jobs were, they should have been relatively simple jobs, and because for lots of reasons, again, God had different plans when we went in, and so part of it was waiting on supplies. Part of it was like we had already shared. I lost half of a workday on Monday and Tuesday driving back to figure stuff out with my car, and so as we're just taking the days as they go, it was just a lot of waiting. There's one picture you see. It's either on Wednesday or Thursday of Joe standing holding a fan, waiting literally for mud to dry, and the kids that we had with us just kind of hanging out on the floor. Because when we got to that stage of the project, that's what we had to do. And then on Wednesday, we got a layer of mud up, and then it starts downpouring rain. Well, if you're waiting for moisture to get out of mud and dry, you know that when it's downpouring rain, it's not going to dry. And so it was just one of those work days where it's like, man, it's 2:00. This is not going to dry before 4. I guess we go back to the mission because that's all we have to do today. And so it was just kind of the way that the jobs progressed this week, where you'd get to a point and you'd say, we can't take the next step because we're waiting or because the supplies we need are not here. Again, we were down a vehicle, and so if we needed something, I couldn't just go get it. And our work crew leader, Tim, who you've seen him in a couple of pictures, and some of you guys know Tim, he was split between the two sites. And so the people at Miss Geraldine's site would get dropped off with no vehicle. And so if Tim was on the other work site about 4 miles away, and you decide, oh, I need a new battery for the drill. Well, there's none here because Tim's on the other site and Justin doesn't have a vehicle to go get it. So we sit and we wait, and that's just what we do. And so as frustrating as that is, I think in that process for all of us that were on that job, it was just a reminder for us of, okay, God's got us waiting right now. What are we learning in the waiting part of this process? And so what is God going to show us in that? And so it just was part of the process for this year. And again, I think God taught us and spoke to us through that process just as much. So.
Awesome. And then the other house we had was Miss Marilyn's house. They're actually sisters, Miss Marilyn and Miss Geraldine. We didn't know that. I didn't know that until Tuesday. But at Miss Marilyn's house, we had a couple main projects, and then while we were there, in some of that waiting, we picked up a couple more. So originally we were supposed to replace all the windows in her kitchen. There was a bank of windows that were largely ineffective. And that she had been waiting quite a while for. So we were replacing those, as well as relocating her dryer so that it could actually vent outside, and moving that. That involved moving the wiring underneath and rerunning that, putting the exhaust opening in the outside and all of those pieces. While we were there first day, she ended up actually, saying, hey, I got more stuff. And we said, cool, we'll help with that. So if Brandon and Macy and Jacob all want to come up, and we'll walk through that entire job, Monday through Thursday, and what happened at Miss Geraldine's job site with you guys. Is that fair? I'm sorry, Miss Marilyn's job site then.
So my name's Brandon. I was one of the project team leaders along with Joe. So part of my job as the project team leader was every morning we would make sure the work vans were loaded up with the supplies we needed for the days. For Monday, though, they basically just said, here's some windows, here's a bunch of stuff. There's a milk crate with a bunch of things in it. Good luck. So we get there on Monday, and it was kind of a slow start. We show up, and we find out, okay, there's a toilet that's leaking. And we knew we had to do the windows. We knew we had to do the dryer electrical relocation. So we thought, well, let's kind of scout out each of these jobs, find out what we want to tackle first. So that was a kind of a big part of the day, because when we got there, we thought, well, the windows, these should be pretty easy to take out, so maybe we'll do those later. Once we started looking at them, we thought, well, we don't even know how these were even installed. So we'll do that later. So let's tackle the toilet first. It was leaking from the bolts that hold the tank to the toilet bowl. Easy enough, right? So we turn off the water, drain the toilet tank, take the tank off, realize we don't have the right hardware. So we tried to cobble together some different bolts and some washers, put it back on. It leaked worse than what it was before. So we drained it, took it all off again. And I mean, that leak was bad. I think a couple of us ended up with several layers of clothes just absolutely just drenched for the rest of the day. So anyway, we found some other stuff, cobbled together some more stuff with the bolts. It worked, but then it was leaking out of the flange. So we ended up, after meeting with Tim, we got the right parts, put the old flange back on, and it was good until Tuesday, where we had to reassess because it wouldn't stop running. So the toilet, what should have been probably a half-hour job, ended up being a good part of a day. Also on that first day, we also took off the window trim and found out the wall behind the windows behind the trim was rotted, which is where all of her bugs and wind and rain were coming in. So really, the window job wasn't as straightforward as we thought it would be either. So we just kind of left that for the next day, to where we installed the windows, and then Lucas and I were down in the crawl space underneath, kind of pre-wiring the wires for the dryer. So we had some electrical issues. We had to have some of the people from Redbird coming up because we didn't want to hook stuff up and let some of us have less hair than what we already have. So we did that and then kind of went into the last day. But do you want to touch on anything? I can finish up a little bit too.
Like he said, we had to work on the toilet one of the days. The bolts that were holding the stuff together was more rust than actual bolts, so that was fun to be trying to unscrew. That's what the picture of me and Anna on the floor is. Me and Macy were in charge of caulking the new windows after we got them out and then reinstalled. That was kind of messy and incredibly scary because the ladder was wobbly and there was a hill right behind me. Overall, it was just a fun time, good or bad.
Okay, so Wednesday we nailed in the window trim, but we had to make sure that it was lined up straight. And so we had to put caulk over the trim and let it dry, which was pretty much Wednesday. Thursday we got the razor blades and smoothed out the caulk. Then we painted the trim inside and the outside trim and let those both dry. And after we let it dry, we had to talk with Miss Marilyn, which was the lady we were helping, and got to know her a little more, asked her questions, which was really fun. After that, the adults cut the outside trim and the kids helped put up them and caulk those. When the paint was done drying, we painted another layer over it and let that dry. Then we were pretty much done with the windows. Then after you're done, you realize it's kind of emotional because it's sad to leave, but also at the same time it feels good to help people who need it more than me. And it feels good to work as God's hands and feet. I'm just really glad I was able to go on this trip and see it from a different perspective.
Yeah, so as Don mentioned before, there were a couple extra jobs that we were able to do for Miss Marilyn as well. So there's kind of a quote from animated movie Robots that I like, and it's see a need, fill a need. And so that's just one of those things where Miss Marilyn had, in one of the pictures you can see some of the girls were putting together a raised garden bed with a greenhouse, roof that goes on it, and she was absolutely thrilled with that. And we also identified that her sidewalk was, it goes up it's a fairly steep hill that goes from where she parks her car to go up to the hill, and there's actually part of the sidewalk right there. And that's after we edged it. It was overgrown in some spots to where it was probably a good 6-8 inches overgrown onto her sidewalk. And so we asked if it was okay, if we could edge that for her. She said yes, so we just kind of took that upon ourselves to do that too. So it was really nice seeing the kids all work together really well. A lot of them just kind of joined the projects together and they just worked well together, especially some of them not really knowing each other very much before the trip started. So it was really great having the different teams and different people come together throughout the trip and just get to know each other really well and grow. And there was some good mentoring going on. There's some new friendships that were created, and it was just really good seeing how God worked just among our team too. Should I talk about the dryer too? We didn't really talk about that, but so we had a lot of different odds and ends jobs. So part of the crawl space job was, like I mentioned, we had to relocate some wiring underneath. It was quite dirty underneath. Not sure if there were any animals or bugs. We didn't see any, but if they saw us, they stayed away. But we were able to relocate the dryer, electrical, get that all wired up, and actually that was one of the jobs that I was most worried about, but actually I think was really the one that was really pretty straightforward and worked the first time. So that was actually really good.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, you want to just turn that off, Brandon? So the work itself, I mean, it took the days, but a lot of it did leave time to sit and to talk and to grow together, to get to know Miss Marilyn and Miss Geraldine, and just see what life there was. Incredibly impressed, like Brandon said, with the way the kids worked, with the way that they stepped up. Even as there wasn't enough to do, I mean, and people, several times on Miss Marilyn's porch, kids were sitting talking, and we go, oh, hey, we need somebody to do this. And there was always multiple people going, yeah, let me help, let me do, which was excellent. But that wasn't the only part of the day. Work was about, we left the mission about 8 a.m., 8:30, and then we would be back around 4:30, and that leaves a lot of the day unaccounted for. So if Lucas and Josh and Joseph want to come up, all three of you together, and talk about two different things, but still all together, life on the mission, some of the fun activities that we got to take part in, and also the other groups. We weren't the only group there for work camp. There were 2 other groups there with us, not on our job sites, but at the mission and being hosted there. And so these guys want to share whatever it is that you think about life on the mission. And I'm a little nervous.
There was 2 other groups there with us. There was people from Virginia, like Charleston, and there was Kalamazoo. There's one, what was it, Lansing? Oh, all right. The Virginia group had a lot of older adults, but then they had one kid, he was like 17, and he found his way to our group mainly because we had a lot of younger kids that he was able to hang out with. And his name was Hunter, and he ended up doing Devos with us the last 2 nights. I think he became a big part of our mission, but we became a big part of his trip, and we made him feel included and a lot of that stuff.
And then the other group that was there, it's the one from like Lansing, as Don said. They had 3 teenage boys, Jackson, Hiram, and Ty. And they played volleyball with us on the first night. And then Jackson like really hung around our group, and in some of the pictures, like when we were playing cards, he's there with us and Hunter, and he just was there for around us for the rest of the week. He played a lot of volleyball, basketball, just hung around our group in the weekend, and it was really nice to have other people there that were outside the group that we could get to know.
We did play a lot of volleyball. I don't know why we did. We showed up the first day. The first thing we did before we even went to the bunks was we played some basketball. But then me, Josh, and Lucas saw there was a volleyball net. So me and Josh were like, Lucas, come here. Come stand on our knees. and then we'll pick you up so you can put up the net. So we did that. So no matter how tired we were after every day of working, we all got together after dinner and went to go play volleyball for about an hour straight. That was the most volleyball I've played in my life. So that was fun. Yeah, through volleyball we met Hiram, Ty, Jackson, Hunter. Hunter was great. Hunter was around a lot. We even gave him a little going away gift, a little rock, and then paper we all signed. They're all great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, and maybe these guys can attest to this a little bit. The afternoon hour from 4:30 until 10:30. I mean, they're just active doing things together, and whatever that looked like. I think it's a little different than what we do here, but just getting to play, to talk, whether that's card games or cornhole or volleyball, a little bit of basketball. So they like their ice cream there. So a lot of nights they serve ice cream in different ways, and we had the opportunity just to spend time. And that's really what it is. It's intentional time to get to know, to build a team, and just to share an experience in a way that doesn't always exist in the busyness of life here. And it was a lot of fun. I'm sure they can tell you some more stories about those times if you're curious at all. And then we got to go home. So, and we're going out of order, and these guys are going to be mad at me about that. But if Bridget and Ariella want to come up and talk a little bit about what happened Friday when we left, how we got home, what we did, we'll wrap up with a couple things.
Well, we woke up pretty early to pack up and kind of just clean the cabins. We wanted to make sure the cabins were cleaner than what we first saw when we got there, just to make sure that it was clean. And then, so we got on the bus, and then we started going home, stopped at Buc-ee's again, because Buc-ee's is a good place to go when you're in Kentucky. And then we went to the Cincinnati Zoo. It was a big zoo, and we saw a lot of animals. I don't know about the other groups that went through the zoo, but our group, we saw the gorillas, and they jumped up on the walls, which was really cool. And we saw the bears and tigers and elephants and giraffes and other animals. I didn't see those, but no. But that was really good. So we got home around really late-ish, and we all went to bed, and I was happy for that. But it was a good trip home, and nothing broke down, which was good, and Don got us back safely, so that was also good. So yeah.
This was my first year, so it was kind of different for me, but it was really fun, and I got to do a lot of different things. We came home Friday, and we went to the zoo, and all the pretty flowers and everything was really pretty, and at the zoo, and I got to see an alligator, lizards, these monkey things. They were really active. They were jumping around and climbing on the walls, and it was really weird, but they were the most active animal that I've seen all day. So, and then I probably slept about 20 times on the bus because it was just very boring. But I slept 20 times. We came home at 12:30 a.m. I think. I don't really remember, but yeah, overall it was a really good trip, and I would say I would go back next year to do it all over again. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. What? What? Go ahead. Say what you gotta say, man.
On the way home, in the morning, nobody ate breakfast because it was too early. And then when we were at the zoo, they only took card, so nobody ate at the zoo either. And then, yeah, we didn't eat at the zoo because we didn't have a card. And then on the bus ride home, kind of a little hungry, because we didn't eat all day. So then everybody's kind of screaming. We threatened to eat Jacob to try and then Don got off the expressway and then got back on the expressway. But then we finally got Subway, and everybody ate 18 inches of Subway. So it was good.
Hey, If I'd have known you were going to talk about that, I wouldn't have given you the microphone. You can't stop in Cincinnati with kids. We had to get somewhere safe. Just so happened it was like 3 hours away. No, and that's just it. You know, after a long week, you want to be able to relax and just enjoy, and that's what Friday was. I mean, it's a long drive, but still being able to stop at the points we needed to and enjoy it was very good. The last thing that I really want to do is I'm going to have Ella come up and Miss Lorraine come up. Ella is going to share first, give you some thoughts on the week, what she saw, what she takes away, and then Miss Lorraine, if you would do the same, and then I'll wrap things up.
Hi, my name is Ella Colling, and I went on the Redbird trip. It was really, really fun. So, I don't know how many of you know who I am, but I went to Sun's Life for about 5 years when I was younger. Now my family pastors in Gagetown, and I wanted to go on the Redbird trip for a very long time. When I was about 7 years old, I saw the report from that group that had come back from Redbird, and I was like, I want to go on this trip. I'm going on this trip as soon as I get old enough. But the opportunity just hasn't presented itself until this year. So I went to Redbird to surf, to work really, really, really hard. But through blessing others, it really blessed me. So working for Miss Marilyn was such a joy. She was the sweetest lady. She would always take a minute to chat with us whenever one of us was lacking a job at the moment. Let's see, where was I? In the evenings after work, we got to play, and just the fellowship with the other believers at the camp was just so much fun, very enjoyable. And then going to Redbird really helped me to feel closer to God. We were just surrounded by his creation, and you can't help but feel just in awe of God's creation as you're just surrounded by these enormous mountains. Like, they were giant. I'd never seen anything that big. And it just really put into perspective how amazing our God is. Redbird Mission is not just a place to go to work. We do work there very hard, but we go to really grow spiritually. We learn how to serve others, and through that, we can serve our God. Thank you.
I will share because our part is to share memorable, impactful moments or takeaways from the trip. And one of the things I did take away from Ella, especially, she had shared she never played volleyball. And she actually played volleyball and hit the ball and got us a point. So can we get... Yeah. Sorry, Ella, you deserve that one. I just want to share some highlights. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was just watching a group of young people come together, you know, like other people have said, that did not know each other very well, and kind of learn, one, to put God first, and two, to rely on each other to get a job done. Everybody learned to communicate and see where there was any need and just kind of talk to each other. I mean, it might have been a little rough in the beginning, but, you know, at the end, we came out with a group of kids that was not the same group. And that's one thing I can honestly say for myself as well. Like, and sharing that with my husband when we got back, I'm like, I just feel an urgency now to tell people about God more than I did when I left, you know. And I think one of the biggest takeaway was to know that that's just the beginning of our service, you know, that our service will continue from that, you know, from then forward. Like, maybe if you didn't know how or where to be of help to somebody, now you will. You know, now you'll be able to step in and help people however you can help them. Also, I was one of the people that got to be in both of the houses. So going back to Miss Geraldine's, she was a little standoffish at first, which, again, I think when a group of strangers comes into your house, it's only fair to feel that way, right? But as the date went by, she kind of warmed up to everybody. And I wasn't there Wednesday and Thursday, but it was really nice to hear the stories of everybody, you know, how she ended up sharing about her life. And sharing how she did lose her husband when her kids were very young. And with God, she was able to move forward and raise her children. So it was, just nice to be able to hear her testimony, if anything. And it was really nice, again, to see that we were able to help somebody. But what people might not notice is that they're really helping us, right? We're really taking the biggest blessing here, because it makes me want to just get emotional. But honestly, to know that you're able to humble yourself and serve is just the most beautiful thing you can experience. And as for Miss Marilyn, her sister, we did make a point, like Macy shared, we all sat down with her, like all of us that were not working at the moment, and we just kind of asked. She was a little more open, and she shared a lot about her life. She showed us an award that she had gotten for working 30 years at her job, and then at that moment we asked her, I said, hey, Ms. Marilyn, if you could give these kids any advice, what would you give them, And she says, well, to enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Just enjoy it. And I thought that was just really neat. And again, just watching all the kids like Hunter and the other boys. I'm not going to say their names because I'm going to forget one. But it was really, really, really cool watching. Like I said, you don't know these people. But, if you find it in your heart to embrace them, to make them a part of your group. And I will say to every single one of you, I am so thankful to have done this with all of you. And I'm thankful for the whole church for sponsoring this, or everybody that sponsored it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And that is something I can say for certain. You look at this and you go, okay, we're going to do this. And for a while, we're going to do this in March, and we're going to do this all the way out. And I don't know how, or I don't know what. There's absolutely no question God put together the people who were supposed to be there, the people who were supposed to serve and who were supposed to take that away. As we wrap up, I want to share a little bit about the devos that we did through the week, what we did at night and in the morning. Starting with a quiz, because I think it's Bible. We can quiz on that, right? Book of Galatians. What do you know about it? Anybody? Just what? Paul. Perfect. Who wrote it? Nice. Good job. Anybody else anything about the book of Galatians? Here's the thing. For a very long time, I knew exactly two things about the book of Galatians. Number one, I knew that Paul wrote it. And number two, I knew that the fruit of the Spirit was in there. And I guess some other stuff too, probably. But the good news is I didn't have to know more than that, because that's what we talked about all week long was the fruit of the Spirit. And in Galatians chapter 5, Paul lays that out. And for a long time, it was that thing that we just memorize, that thing that we know. There's 9 of them, and we know what they are. Maybe a song that goes along with it. Don't sing it right now. But you have those fruit of the Spirit. Well, what we looked at, and each day, is we just broke down a couple of those fruits of the Spirit, 2 at a time, to go, what does it look like to not just know them, but to implement them in the way that we serve. To serve and to display those and to make those aspects of what we do fully and completely. And so that meant on Sunday night, we sat down and we talked about love and joy, with the goal looking forward to Monday going, what we do, we need to do with love fully and with joy, not necessarily happiness. I mean, again, there's children laying by a toilet. Happiness is hard to find, but joy in serving and serving well is a great way to start the week. On Monday morning, in addition to what we did as a group on Sunday night, there was also an individual Devo that each person did on their own. Just a moment to spend, to reflect, and to spend time in prayer before each day started, that built on the concept from Sunday night and launched us into the day with God first, setting our heart and our mind on what it was that we were going to do that day. The nice thing about the fruits of the Spirit, it worked really well because Monday is love and joy, and there's a lot of that. And then Tuesday, after a full day of work, and after maybe, I don't know, some people didn't think those beds were as comfortable as everybody else did, and maybe not so much sleep. The next 2 are? Anybody? Peace and patience, right? 2 things that you really do need on Tuesday. Peace to know that what we're doing, that what is going to happen is within what it is that God has for us, and to trust that, and also patience with the process, with the waiting, with each other, all of the things. I'm going to leave that right there. And so it was peace, patience. What's next? kindness and goodness for Wednesday was our focus, to truly look to treat each other with kindness and what that needed to be, and then also to goodness, not just doing it to do it, not just getting this part of the job done that I don't really care about so much, not just getting done, but doing it well, doing what we did well to serve for him, not for us. Kindness, goodness. Anyone else know the next couple? Faithfulness and gentleness. Next two. Faithfulness and gentleness. Faithfulness to see the job well and to see it out on Thursday. And gentleness to be able to speak well of each other with each other as we were finishing that. And that left us to Friday. That left us, Thursday night into Friday, into going home, and it left us with self-control. That last piece, and that piece to me is where we really stuck through the week and going home. As we touched on, and several of the people touched on here, is yes, we fixed some windows and fixed a roof, and that made an impact there. But it's what happened to this team and to us that we take home and that we continue on with. And that self-control is the idea that what we learned, we continue. We continue to do well. This trip was not a goal. It was not the end of it. What we did in preparing and leading up to this wasn't the goal. It was the training for the goal, the training that we took away to go, hey, now we know more of what it is to serve. Now we know more of what it is to serve well and to serve fully, and those are things that we can do today. Those are opportunities that God places before us now and later, and that self-control comes to the idea that I am going to personally take that on and say, I'm going to continue to serve. The things that we did then and there are the things that we can do here and now, are the things that we can do tomorrow and the next day. And we take all those and we go, and that leads us to a place of, for me, and maybe for one or two of them, put those fruit of the Spirit into a different context. Not just a list that we memorize from Galatians that says, yes, I agree that those things are okay, but into something that is implemented and that we focus on through each step of our life. It was a great trip in all the ways, and we'll continue to share that with you. But for me, I just wanted to express the gratitude and the gratefulness to say, your support, your prayers through all of the things, right? The really, really great things, the really, really hard things, the travel things, the work things, the fun things. It is not a thing that happens with only 16 people. It is not a thing that happens only with the people who were on the bus. It is a thing that happens with a church, with a community, with a body of believers who put and work together to make an impact and to truly do kingdom work. And so on behalf of the team, thank you. Thank you for allowing us to serve. Thank you for supporting this team and everything. And honestly, and thank you for continuing to pray for them. As that wasn't the goal, as that was just the training, to continue to pray that they implement those lessons and they implement those pieces of what they've done, and to not let it be something that stayed there, but that continues with us as we go forward. So with that, I'm going to pray, and the worship team's going to come up. We're going to sing one more song, and we're going to be done. I would encourage you, if you have been to Redbird, to find some of these people, whether it's today or tomorrow, share your stories. Sharing stories of lessons learned is incredibly valuable. If you haven't been and you're curious about it, if you want to know more, they're very small snippets. Maybe it feels long right now. There's very small snippets, but there are 16 people who have a week's worth of experience in what God did in their life, and I'd encourage you to ask. Ask them and say, hey, a couple of them may not be the people who necessarily can convey that well to 80 people very, very quickly, but man, if you just sit down with them for a few minutes, God worked. And I'd love love them to have the opportunity to speak to that fully and completely. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for the fact that we are all standing here safely, for the fact that we had the opportunity for this trip, but that now we have the opportunity to continue to serve well. I thank you for this team of people. I thank you for this body of believers, these people who look to you and say, I want to serve you well, and who answer that call. God, we just pray that as we're here and now, that you would make us aware of what it is that you have for us, of those opportunities to serve, to love you well, to serve others fully. We ask that as we go forward from here into this week, you would make us bold to speak your truth with every opportunity, and let our actions be glorifying and pleasing to you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.